Welcome to Golf Industry Guru and the Gig Podcast, where we interview the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. On today's episode, you will learn some proven real-world solutions that'll help you and your team solve some of your biggest golf business challenges. So stick around for some tips, tools, and training to get you, your people, and your business powered on. Here's your host, James Kronk.
Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, Gig Nation, to another podcast here on Golf Industry Guru. I am your host, James Kronk, and today I am going to be talking to the creative director, the chief memory officer, the director of Vibe of Champions Run. I am so thrilled and excited to be talking to Ben Lorenzen, who seems to me to be a up-and-coming rising star of the social media talk show circuit in club managers all over the place. And I caught whiff of Ben when I was going through the internet, looking up some exciting people to see what they're doing, see what they're teaching. And Ben, I love what you are doing, man. So welcome to the Golf Industry Guru podcast. I'm thrilled to have you.
Oh, super excited to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, first time.
Well, you know, I was on your website. I saw some videos. I saw on some social media stuff. You were hanging out with my favorite guru, Greg Patterson. And if you can be in the same stage and the same floor as Greg, man, you've got to have some energy. You got to bring your game to that kind of presentation.
Yeah, so he was, so I actually saw him speak. This was in, I think, 2016 in Orlando, Florida at the CMA World Conference. And I saw him speak for the first time. And my general manager at the time was like, you got to come see this guy. Like, this guy's crazy. Like, and I went and saw him like, oh shit, like this guy is crazy. And I thought to myself at the time, I'm just like, I want to be a public speaker like that guy. Cause like, he's so animated and so crazy. I was like, I have all this crazy content. Like I could do what he does and then also like show like the insanity of what we do. And so that's what really actually inspired me to begin speaking and just like put myself out there because I had never been a public speaker and that's really what kind of like got me into it, honestly, which was crazy. And so now I'd like to say Greg and I are pretty good buddies and we bring him up to Omaha, Nebraska, and, you know, he teaches and preaches and it's a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, listen, yeah. So tell us more about your journey, Ben. I mean, tell us a little bit about kind of how you got in this business and then literally like now, what you're doing now at Champions Run, but also beyond.
Yeah. So, you know, I started as a lifeguard when I was 15 years old. And so, that's really was kind of my first like exposure to the club world. I really didn't know what a private club was. And so I was a lifeguard and then I was a bag boy, when I was 17. And it's funny, our director of golf, who's still here now, like he probably should have fired me way back then. Like I was just an ornery, you know, high school kid working with all my friends. And then I was a bartender in our card room and I had it was a summer job and I left to go to college and went to school for video production. I was very like creative driven. This was kind of when cameras were kind of coming out and were a big thing back in like the mid 2000s. And so, I was going to school for creative stuff and I kept coming back to the club to be a lifeguard. And I always knew I wanted to do something that was outdoors, do something with kids, do something that was fun. And when I was probably 21. It was like I was doing my last hurrah summer where I was like, I got to get a real job. I can't keep being a pool boy. And that summer I was just making all these videos for our swim team and all this content for the club. And then I did what most people, like all millennials do. They just like quit and left their job, right? And all the people were like, where'd Ben go, right? And so they offered me to come back into a full-time marketing role there. So it was a really unique journey. I like to think I've done almost every job in the club industry. But it was just something I always wanted to do, like where I just could influence people and hang out with kids and just be in an outdoor environment. And that's what I love about clubs is it kind of does all that stuff. And so now I've been the marketing and creative person at Champions. I also run like our aquatics and our fitness center. I've been doing that for almost 9 years now. And like we just talked about, Greg Patterson's what really got me into like the public speaking circuit. But what I always tell people I do is like, my job is just to create magical moments and memories for our members. I mean, that's in a sense, all I'm trying to do each and every day is just create magical experiences. I'm a big fan of Disney. I'm a big fan of everything they do. And it's trying to bring that experience to Omaha, Nebraska here in, the Midwest.
Give our listeners a little sense about what Champions Run is all about. Like how big, how much stuff you got going on there. Like tell me the size of the program, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So when I started here, Champions Run, the age, like most clubs, it was an older demographic, right? Clubs have this like stereotype that it's, an old person nursing home. And so like what I saw though is like, this is like a fun, youthful place. Like this is a cool place to be. And so our average age now, it just trended downward, as we started doing content creation and things like that, where our average age is about 47 years old. So fairly younger. We have 450 golf memberships, which we have about 80 on our wait list. We have 550 social members, which is a lot for us. It's full. It's not full, but it's really full. And then we were, back 8-9 years ago, we were about a $6-7 million a year club. Now we're about to push 13 this year. So, I mean, we've almost doubled our revenue. So it's a very youthful club. It's just like, it's where people want to be. It's where we say like magic happens and that's what we're trying to do each and every day.
And what kind of amenities do you have there in addition to the golf?
Yeah, so we have 18-hole golf course. Greg Jones, he's our director of agronomy, super talented individual. For how much golf is getting played on that course, he keeps it in pristine condition. Then we have tennis courts, pickleball, our pool, our fitness center, a great food and beverage dining program, a big wine program. Being in the Midwest, there's only really one club here that like bubbles their tennis courts. We don't do that, but it's something we're looking into to offer that year-round aspect.
Awesome.
But then obviously the youth program's huge for us too. Having our average age of being 47, 48 years old, it's tons of kids are running around this place. So we have to have a very like extensive youth programming schedule as well to keep people engaged.
Very cool. So tell me a little bit more about, your role and now you have a little bit gotten on the speaking circuit and you get out and kind of give presentations and tell me a little bit more about what you talk about and what your presentation's all about.
Yeah, a lot of what I speak on, a lot of it's creative events, but a lot of it is like membership marketing and mostly communication. And I think that's one of the things in the club industry that's been behind the ball for so many years is club communications. I know like a lot of clubs are just still like relying on email campaigns and things like that, where it's, I saw a big opportunity when I was younger. I'm like, people are not communicating through email. Like my generation communicates through email, but like we're also using so many other outlets, whether it's text alerts or, apps and obviously social media is a huge component to that. And so when I started here at Champions about 8 or 9 years ago, we didn't have social media pages, right? Like no clubs really did. And so that was like one of the first things I did with my job is like, they're like, just build our marketing program. And so like I built our Facebook page, I built our Instagram page, our Twitter pages like from zero. And so that's like a huge component of what I do is the social media and content creation. And that's the world we live in, right? People are attached to these things, right? And so that's how we communicate though too, where I think a lot of clubs just rely so much on emails and even traditional print media, which I'm sorry, but like if I get a newsletter like this and hey, great, like, and then I'm going to toss it in the trash can, right? And so it's about connection. And I think that's like a big thing that what I'm trying to do now with our marketing team here is how do we improve connection and communication? I think that's the big piece is it's not just about just driving information down your throat about like, hey, this is prime rib night. This is, bingo night. It's about the connection piece of it too. And so that's what we're really trying to focus on.
So listening today is going to be, club managers, sales and marketing directors, people from all different areas of a club, of all different types of clubs. For your experience, and when you go out and speak and meet with managers and talk with marketing people about creating or improving their sales and marketing efforts, what would be kind of some of the goals and objectives that, a club should have, from a 30,000 foot kind of level? I mean, you talked about it right there about connection, but are there some other goals and objectives that, everyone should kind of sit and think about before they start talking about how do we get that message out, or what is that message out?
Yeah.
Is there some things that we could talk about with regards to goals and objectives first?
Yeah, it's really identifying your audience, because what I've seen is people communicate differently. Like how I communicate is probably different than how you communicate, right? And so it's making sure you're reaching everybody. And so there are going to be people who they want that traditional magazine, right? But there's so much of that younger generation who wants something else. I had a club, actually, I won't say who it was, but they were like, "Hey, Ben, our board and our members are so against social media as a means of communication. Like, what should we do about it?" And I was like, well, not to sound like sadistic or bad, but like eventually those people are going to be they're going to pass away, and like the next generation of a club member, it's looking the future, like 30 years down the road, like the next generation of club members is going to expect that you communicate through this device,
right?
Because even laptops and computers, they're still great and they're a huge tool, but people are so reliant on that cell phone and their mobile device that you have to kind of like forecast for the future and not just focus on the now and the present as well. I mean, it's a huge piece to do that, but it's always planning for the future too. And I think that's where we've done really well at Champions Run, is like we've always just anticipated the next big communication piece. I mean, we were doing text alerts 7 years ago, and now it's like I feel like clubs are starting to like be like, oh my gosh, we have to get on text. And it's like, well, yeah, like it's how we're like, it's crazy because all these clubs have like 30-year-old employees and 20-year-old employees. Like how are they communicating? Because you should really take note at your employees who are younger, because how they're communicating is how your members are going to eventually communicate as well. I mean, my 94-year-old grandpa is on Facebook, and so 7-8 years ago when I was talking about Facebook at World Conference, everyone's like, we're not getting on Facebook. I literally remember asking a room full of 500 people. I'm like, raise your hand if your club's on Facebook. And 3 people raised their hands. I'm like, oh boy,
wow.
This is insane. And now most clubs are on Facebook, and that's because that's how we communicate.
Yeah. So goals and objectives. So understanding your audience, which is critical, obviously. And
then the art of storytelling, I think, is such a huge component. And this is what I love so much about clubs, because there are so many stories in a club, like thousands and thousands and thousands. And so I think all clubs have such amazing stories, whether they're very historical in nature, but just little stories about things you're known for. Like Champions Run is known for our cookies, right? And so there's a story to be told there. And so whether it's through a photo or a video or copywriting, I think clubs just need to do a better job, screaming from the rooftops of hey, here's some cool stories about our club. And a lot of people, I think, focus on, the historical element, our course is a Jack Nicklaus design in 1970. I don't care about that. That doesn't affect me at all, right? I want to know about your cookies and your mints and things that that are very tangible to me now and in the present. And it always cracks me up when people brag about who designed their course. I'm like, I don't care.
Yes,
I don't know how many people really do care. Maybe they do. I could just be speaking out of my butt. But
there's 13,000 championship golf courses in the United States and North America.
Exactly. So. There are some cool pieces. If you hosted a big tournament, that's cool. It's a cool fact, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that per se. I think there's way cooler stories in the clubs that I go to and I've seen them. I'm like, oh, tell me more about this, right?
So if you're trying to find some stories to tell, and you talk about your cookies, right? And we used to talk about We used to talk about above and beyond moments. We used to say that, like, at every opportunity, there's an opportunity to create a moment with the guest, with the member, with the customer, right? And so whether it's when they walk in the club, whatever the music's playing, whether they walk in the golf shop, how they're greeted, whether they're going out onto the first tee, how their experience is teeing off, whatever it is, right? There's always these opportunities to do something that is unique or that is memorable. And so when you're trying to create these stories, or you talk about your cookies, where does the club go to try to seek out these types of stories? And if you're a sales and marketing manager and you've got all this club stuff going on, where do you go? What do you look for?
Yeah, so we honestly find so much of our inspiration on Instagram and TikTok. Like, it's crazy. My GM, who's 50 something years old, like, he'll send me TikToks every day. And like, he's like, how can you take that of what I'm sending you that may not be relevant to Champions Run? How can you take that and morph it and make it into something that we can do? And so we're stealing ideas all the time. Like Greg says all the time, like steal ideas and claim them as your own and laugh all the way to the bank. It's like, yeah, that's the easiest, that's the best piece of advice anyone's ever told me, because like, we're stealing ideas left and right. And then people are like, oh my gosh, these guys are so innovative and so creative. It's like, yeah, we are. No, we're not really. We've just stolen it. So, TikTok and Instagram is huge. Like, I use this one as an example. Like, we do this thing called Frozen Friendship, and it's out at our pool in the summer. And we talk about those magical moments and experiences. And so what we do is we give all of our staff members red roses. So like, if you're a fan of The Bachelor, like the whole concept of like, will you accept this rose, as you like hand them the rose. And so we play this song over our sound system, and it's the one from Dirty Dancing, like, now I've had the and so like, everyone's like, why is this song coming on so loud at the pool? And then you see all of our staff file out of the building, and they're all holding these red roses, and they all have ice cream. So red roses and ice cream. They just go up to random kids and ask them on an ice cream date. And so they'll take a kid and they'll go like have a little date with them, and they'll say, will you accept this rose? They don't know who they're going up to. And that's one of the rules. I'm like, you can't go up to somebody like, that's easy to do. Like, go up to someone you've never met before, right? And so they'll go out and there'll be like 20 of our staff members having ice cream dates on the pool deck. And hopefully you're one of those lucky kids who gets chosen. Well, what we found, and I didn't anticipate this, we just did it to create magical moments, but a lot of those people who are there are guests, right? And they're like, what's going on? Like, why is this like bartender asking my kid on an ice cream date? And they see how magical and special it is. Well, if you're a guest and you're like, is this like an everyday thing? Yes, it is. What do you think they do? They're like, here's my checkbook. Who do I sign the check to? I want to be a part of this. And, indirectly, like, I mean, there's a $10,000 initiation fee right there. We bought 12 roses or 24 roses. And it's those little things like where we find inspiration on social media, that those things indirectly or directly influence how people sign up for our club and stuff, because they just want to be part of it.
When you're talking to other sales and marketing managers and you tell them that story, what are some of the obstacles that you hear? Like, what do they say, well, we can't, my boss would never do that, or, the staff would never come out of the clubhouse, we don't know where to buy ice cream. I mean, what are some of the obstacles that you hear when you're trying to tell your story about the importance of creating this kind of magical moments? What are some of the obstacles you hear, and then how would you kind of respond to that? But what are some of the obstacles you hear?
That's tough. It is tough. I hear this all the time. Like, we're not that kind of club. Like, we would never do that. Or like, our average age is way older. Like, we don't have kids at our club. And it's like, listen, if I had 5 kids at our club, like, I always tell people, like, I could work in a nursing home and do those exact same things that I do at Champions Run. It doesn't matter if it's a 90-year-old or a 5-year-old.
Right.
Like, everything is relatable. And so I think people just sometimes find excuses because they don't want to do something. It's also leadership too. I think, if your management team's not on board with some of this stuff, you are going to run into issues, but it's about pushing the status quo. And the thing I love is I've seen a lot of people like steal our ideas. And I love when people steal our ideas, because it shows me like, okay, like it is applicable upon like all clubs. And I've seen the most traditional clubs in America do some of the stuff we do. And so when I see them do it, I'm just like, yeah. And I'll use like that club as an example. Like, you say you can't do this. Like, well, this club down the street that's average age is 70 years old is doing this exact same, we call them promos, or we call them like RAD. RAD stands for Radical, Amped, and Dangerous. But it's like our list of promos that we do for magical moments. And so, yeah, it's cool seeing clubs that are very traditional do those things and have huge success with them too. And one of the most gratifying things is when people tell me about them. Like, yeah, we did the roses and it was so awesome and our members loved it. And I'm like, I told you it would work. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a club. Like, I could do that exact same promo in a nursing home and it would be just as magical. Like, it literally would. And so I don't know. It's one of those things that it's all about people too. You know, some people like, they're just going to say, no, we can't do that. That's not our kind of club. And to me, it's like anything is applicable. Maybe it's not red roses, but let's just say we're a traditional male golf club. Like, okay, well, let's take something, eliminate the roses from it. What would golfers like that you could do something like on the first tee box or something like that? Like, we did this one promo that was so funny, and I did not know what the response was going to be. I wish I had them in here, but we have a drone, and most people like think of drones like people associate drones with just like pictures of the golf course, right? Like, oh, we have to give our magical picture of hole number 9 at sunset. And that's why we buy a drone, right? Like, for us, it's like, what can we use our drones for that can create membership experiences? So we have this little like drop mechanism. So it like can carry like shooters and like basically little liquor bottles. And so we'll fly it out onto the golf course and we'll attach little messages to these shooter bottles, and we'll fly it over the greens when the guys are on the greens, and we'll just drop them like right by them, and they'll read them, and they'll say things like, your shot wasn't very good, so we're giving you one, and things like that. And so like knowing your audience, it goes back to knowing your audience too, where like, I am not going to do that with very traditional golfers. I'm going to find golfers who are younger, who are looking like they're having fun, and we're going to do something like that for them. But it's not to say that traditional golfers wouldn't like something like that as well. So that's one of my favorite promos that we do we call it our drone drops, and it's hilarious. It's so funny to watch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've been doing that. One's like, we were experimenting with that like way before drone deliveries were like ever in conversation. This was like, there was a big article, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was like Michael Jordan's course was like delivering cases of beer out on the course. We were doing that like a year before that. I'm like, dang it, like they're going viral, and we've been doing that forever.
Well, that's true. It's everyone's catches up eventually. And speaking of drones, Ben, I mean, what for a club that is maybe not sophisticated yet with regards to their kind of sales and marketing tools and things like that, or they want to bring some of these things in house, what are some of the tools that in your world every club should have, to be able to kind of create, deliver, and communicate this kind of content?
Yeah, I always tell people like, this is the most powerful tool. Your iPhone, the most updated version of the iPhone has such intense cameras. I love GoPros. You'll see behind me up on the shelf, like we have pretty much every GoPro model ever made, and we just keep upgrading because they're affordable. They're like $300-400 and they're waterproof, so you can take them in pools. You can like beat the heck out of them, and they're very durable. So we use those all the time. The Mavic drone, DJI Mavic, that's kind of like the big drones that you see. They're super easy to fly. I always like, we do a movie camp with kids, and like we let 5-year-olds like fly our drones around the facility. Like it's not hard. People like look at it and they're like, I could never do that. I'm like, you could be flying a drone like within 5 minutes. It's not that difficult. And so we have a lot of different drones. And one thing I think you'll see with drones is typically clubs just use like the drones for like those golf course shots, right? Or their property views. And that's nice. What I think you're going to see more of in the club world is people using drones for like video fly-throughs inside their properties. Those have been getting really big. The first one was it was a bowling alley in Minnesota, did like a drone fly through. And after that, like everyone's like, oh my goodness, we need to do this. And so you saw like the Dallas Cowboys do it. I think the new PGA facilities down in Frisco just did it. And so I think you'll start seeing that a little bit more, whether it's a company or like an in-house employee, they'll start doing like more fly-throughs, which we do them too. We haven't gotten great at them, but I think you'll see a little bit more of that to showcase your property.
So drones, GoPros. What about from a software standpoint and a creative making these things kind of standpoint? I mean, you try to do all these things in house, obviously, with your experience.
Yeah, we keep everything in house. I just think that's the way to do it. There's two big editing softwares: Adobe Premiere Pro, and then we use Final Cut Pro, which is a Mac software. It's $300, and like it's what pretty much every like content producer is using to make videos, and so that's what we use. And it's been really well. It's worked really well for us. I've been doing it for like 10 years.
When you talk to other clubs, do they freak out when they think about, I don't know how that technology, or I don't know how to edit video, or I don't know how to use GarageBand, or I mean, do you? And what do you kind of tell them, that they can learn it, or they can hire it, or what are the options?
I always say learn it. What I do when I speak is like I pretty much give crash courses on how to edit. So like I'll edit videos live, I'll film them live, and then show them how easy the process is. The other thing we do like in Omaha, like, so I do a lot of speaking. And so like I go to clubs. Well, it's really easy for me to just like shove like Champions Run content down your throat and say like, oh, this is Champions and you're seeing all these videos. So what we started doing, we started bringing clubs to Omaha, Nebraska. So we do a big thing called the Creative Summit every year. And so we bring probably 20 to 24 clubs from all across the country. We bring them to Omaha where they experience those magical moments, but then we also teach them how to fly drones. We teach them how to take pictures. We teach them how to edit video. And so it's like more crash course schooling. So that's what I've really kind of like put my eggs in that basket, because it's a lot cooler and it's more rewarding to get all these creative people in one spot. Opposed to, because sometimes when I speak, like I'm talking to like servers and food and beverage people. And so I like to work with communication type people.
Right.
But it's not to say that like servers and stuff have that ability to take great content for your clubs too. And that's one thing I always tell like clubs, like it shouldn't be one person's responsibility. Like you should have your chef be able to take high quality photos. You should have your golf pros be able to take pictures of foursomes on the course where, myself and Rachel, like we're not out here like having to go out on the course to take pictures of a ladies member guest event, like when our pro shop staff is totally capable of doing it. But it's about educating them like, hey, here's our brand, here's the kind of content we're looking for. So that's what I really enjoy, is that that creative side of things. But it's really easy to do, and it always blows my mind how many people contract so much of it out.
We'll get back to our conversation in a moment. But first, are you ready to learn from the world's greatest golf and hospitality industry leaders? Train your team and grow your business with a membership to Golf Industry Guru. Join for less than $3 per day and give your entire team access to over 150 hours of courses, podcasts, webinars, templates, articles, live Q&A calls, and more. Free content samples and registration details at golfindustryguru.com.
When you start to share that message, and you talked earlier on about kind of, the different tools and knowing your audience, are there, like, for example, maybe we could just give some credit to some various different options. So like from a member communication standpoint, do you guys use a certain platform? Do you have, when you talk about texting members, do you guys use a particular provider? What are some of the providers that you use or that you've seen that you think are kind of leaders in the industry, whether it's apps, whether it's, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so right now for our text alerts, we're on sorry, my phone's blowing up.
Okay.
Right now we use sorry, I don't know how to turn this down. I don't ever use a landline. It's funny. My voicemail literally says, I don't check my voicemail, call my cell phone.
Yes.
You'll see like, there's like 40 messages is building up. It's like, call my cell. Sorry, but yeah, we were using Zingle for text alerts, which they are not club specific.
Okay.
We're going to be migrating. Actually, I'm doing that right after this call today. We're going to be migrating everything to Club Chat. They're with a company called Long Drive Agency out of Dallas, Texas. And they do email marketing. They do like website design, and then they do text alerts. And it's very like, I love text alerts because you can like assign people to groups. So like, people can opt in and say, I only want to be notified about wine stuff. And so like, we'll only text them about wine. Now, most people will say, I want to be notified about everything, which we love those people. But the Long Drive Agency is kind of like I think like the tech gurus of the club industry as far as softwares go. Like we have a photo booth that's in our lobby that we use from them all the time. It's amazing. It creates content for us, right? Where people just want to take their pictures at the photo booth. So we just have that. And we'll have, how many photos do we have on it? Like 15,000 in one year, like 15,000 photos, maybe way more than that. Actually, maybe it was 15,000 for 1 month.
Wow.
It's insane. Yeah. And it's like everyone who's leaving the restaurant, they're like, I have to take a picture at the photo booth. And it's like nothing special, but it's just this thing that people talk about getting content created. It's like our members are creating content for us. Not only are they creating content for us, they're sharing it. They're like promoting our club with this photo booth. So I love that company just in the fact that I think they have a lot of good, just a lot of different tools to help with membership communication.
And then do you integrate, so your point of sale, your website, your newsletter, is it all integrated in a particular software?
So yeah, we use North Star for our email marketing, which, sorry, North Star people, I'm not a big fan of it, but it's very intricate. We use Canva for all of our design, Canva and Poster My Wall. And that's one thing, like, I'm a big Photoshop guy. Like I grew up like Photoshop. Like I went to school for Photoshop. So I'm really good in Photoshop. I love manipulating photos and I love, all the design aspect of that. But the problem with Photoshop is, if I make a flyer and I need somebody to change it, no one knows how to change it because Photoshop is a very hard software. And if you're a Photoshop person, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like if I asked anyone to be like, hey, I need you to change this in Photoshop, it would require like me to do a FaceTime call. So one thing that we did is we moved everything to Canva and Poster My Wall because now we can have all of our club managers making good content with graphic design. And it's all in this cloud-based software where, hey, maybe we don't like something and we'll change it. And it's, hey, no knock on the golf shop, but like this just didn't look right. So we're going to change it. So it makes sure like, I want like to not just be the sole person creating flyers. Like I love having other staff create, like be able to be creative. And so, but we also want to monitor that, which is why Canva and Poster My Wall are so good because we can change things up a little bit. But it's nice too, because it's such an easy software where like I could like, let somebody get in there right today and they could just start editing stuff and feel pretty confident doing it.
Yeah. It's very straightforward. We use a lot of Canva. That's for sure. It's very valuable.
There's a big software that's huge right now for copywriting. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called openai.com.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So I've been like kind of told that eventually, and once again, this is all speculation, but like that OpenAI, which is basically, kind of like copywriting where it's like you plug in details and it's going to write you perfectly formed sentences that will integrate with Canva where you'll put that into like a Canva type thing and it'll create the whole flyer design and copy and all, which will be very nice. And people always say, they'll take away my job. It's like, no, it'll just make you more efficient at your job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think AI and this whole kind of chat GPTI as well, right? I mean, it's fascinating about what it is, and it's going to be interesting about how it really impacts the creative space, right? And I mean, I almost feel like one day it's going to be, you're going to have this symbol on a blog that says this is authentically written by a human, and then
that's true. And it's crazy. I just actually saw someone post yesterday. Somebody wrote an entire novel with OpenAI.com and published it, and he's getting ripped apart because he literally wrote a book using computer software, and now he's calling himself an author. But, I was thinking about that. I'm like, that's really genius. So when you think about it, because you probably will need something that says a real person wrote this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting about how consumers kind of adapt. And we were looking at this software the other day that you plug in your text, and then there's an avatar. You can use, I could use your face, right? I could take a picture of your face, plug it into the software, and then you would start speaking whatever the text was, and it would show your face, right? And it's like, and all of a sudden it creates a video. And so when you talk about training, like we're obviously in the training business, and when we're talking about how do we make the safety manual for an oven interesting for a brand new cook to learn from? Well, I could send them 7 pages, which he or she is never going to read, or
throw them away.
Or I could plug it into this software and create this 1-minute video with some music and some images, and they're going to watch that on their phone on the bus to work, right? So it's amazing, this technology. And I guess that's probably one of the lessons that we're in the business of content creation, which is there's so much technology out there that it's really not something to be afraid of. It's so easy to create these kind of videos, to use a drone, to use Canva. I mean, these things are very simple.
And for whatever reason, like, no knock on clubs, but they're just, some of them are operating in the Stone Age. And I'm like, like OpenAI and all this stuff, like, it's coming. It's how can you take technology and use it to your advantage? I mean, people are using your apps. Like, I mean, 4Ts is really big for mobile bookings, for tea times and things. Like, your members love that. And so there's so much technology out there. Like, how can you utilize that for your club? And it's going to be crazy to see that next generation. You talk about like training and stuff like that, but it's also like the personalization where, like, I could have a template of me like welcoming a new member, and it looks like, a real video where it saves me all the time, because we do new member videos for all of our new members, and it takes a ton of time. But it's like, how do we use technology to maybe, to help with some of that stuff? And that's where I think clubs can just improve so much. And the other part is, a lot of people don't know about it. Like, sometimes people say Canva, and you're like, what's Canva, right? Yeah. And so I think that's our job as like technology people and content creators in this realm, is to like let people know this stuff exists out there, and it can really save you so much time. Like, not to pick on another club, but we're like, it's myself and my assistant Rachel, who is part-time. She was a student up until a couple weeks ago, and so it's a small team here that cranks out a ton of content. I know marketing departments for clubs that have like 7 people in their marketing department. I'm like, what do you all do? Like, and like, well, we work on our magazine. I'm like, you mean a hard copy magazine? They're like, you have 7 people who work on that? I'm like, if I had a team of 7, man. Well, and so
or it's like, or it's also been, it's like they spent $7,000 on a full page ad in some golf magazine to put a pretty picture of hole number 3. I'm like, exactly. You could have spent $7,000 on creating a year's worth of social media content that would blow the socks off of anybody.
And it goes back to digital media too, where, like, I mean, there's going to be people who want a hard copy, and you have to make those members happy. But, like, there's clubs that are spending over $1 million a year on print, right? Like, we're talking about World Going Green. Like, that's one thing we did just to save. Now, we weren't on that scale, but we saved almost $200,000 a year by just going to digital newsletter. Like, you talk about saving money, like, yeah. And so and that's the thing. It's important to still have that old, stuff for, like, people like tangible things they can hold, but mailing out, 1,000 newsletters every month, like, if I got that, I'm just like, glance, throw away. Cause I still actually get that from a place I belong to. And I'm like, I go online. Yeah. I mean, that's just the way the world is moving. It's online. And so there's nothing wrong with the tangible stuff, but you just look at the future, and it's important just to understand where we're going and where we were. But
I think one of the things I wanted to touch on too, you talked about earlier on about storytelling and content creation. And this is what I find that so many clubs sometimes misunderstand when it comes to newsletter communication. I always, try to talk to them about the fact that you got to educate and entertain first and then sell. You can't, you can't, no one wants to know that your shoes are 20% off 5 times in the course of a month. It's like, tell me something that entertains me, that educates me, that makes me learn something new. And then if at the end it says, oh, by the way, these are 20% off in the golf shop, maybe I'll come and take a look. But so many times it's just like a poster of sale, sale, sale. It's like, that's not the business that we're in. They can get shoes anywhere. What we want them to do is to come to our shop, our club, to become loyal and to want to interact with our team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, right? I mean, I'm sure you say the same thing.
And content creation doesn't have to be this high quality production. I use this video from my friends at Miramount Country Club down in Texas, and they were promoting. It was, what is it? How do you say it? Sun Ice apparel. Yep. And it was like, remember, they're down in Texas, and it was like Sun Ice apparel, great for all conditions. It was their Golf Pro hitting balls, and it was like great for extreme winds, and they had these huge fans on them. And then great for rain, and then they had buckets of water dumping on them. And then even snow, and then they were throwing buckets of ice on it. And it was like, it was so raw, but it was so funny. And like, they sold a lot of apparel because of that. And they did it indirectly, where it's not like, hey, we have this apparel in the pro shop. Here's our Golf Pro just getting buckets of water dumped on them. And that's what's going to make people buy a product. They don't care about that it's sell, sell, sell. It's, oh man, I saw our Golf Pro wearing that funny stuff getting doused. I'm going to go buy my stuff from there, and I'll pay full price.
Yeah. Ben, I got two final things for you. So, someone's listening to this. They're a creative person, or they're a salesperson, or they're a club manager, and they've got an owner or a board or a GM that doesn't drink the Kool-Aid, that doesn't believe in the whole kind of culture creation. What if you walk in that office and try to explain to them why we need to get into this kind of business, why we need to focus on this and make this important? What are some of the talking points that you would give someone to convince someone in the dark ages about the importance of this kind of stuff?
I think number one, finding clubs of relevance that are doing the same thing, right? I think it's a lot easier if I wanted to do let's just say I wanted to have like an RV parking lot party. If I could go to a club and see that this club did it and use it as an example, like, hey, they're a great benchmark for doing this thing, right? Like, you could say, hey, there's a club, down the street. It's a traditional club, and they're doing social media, and it's allowed them to be able to communicate. So you have to have some evidence or some benchmark. I think that's piece number one. Number two, it's at the end of the day, it goes to leadership, and you need your GM to go fight your fight for you, right? Like, it's not the communication director or whoever it is, membership marketing, communication director. It's not their job to go try to sell the board on this vision, right? Like, the GM's got to go to bat. And if your GM's not on board with that, honestly, I would get out of that club, like, right? And so that's what I think I struggle with, that is the fact that, listen, the GM needs to go to bat for you. And if your GM's not there to bat for you and buy into this idea of it, then you're probably at the wrong club. And that's what's, I think, challenging, because I think a lot of communication directors and marketing people just get demoralized because, they get some great ideas in their head, and then it's just like, no, we're not going to do that. And, I've always been a big believer in, like, it's better to ask for forgiveness and for permission. So, like, a lot of stuff, like, I'll just do it because, like, I'm willing to risk my job for it. Like, because I believe in passion. If I'm passionate about something, I'm going to do it. And I get it. There's going to be repercussions for every choice you make. But I've just made those choices based on, well, if I get fired for this, I get fired for this, because this is something I believe in, and this is something I'm passionate for. And I think that's something that you can't really stress enough. And that's where I think people I've seen people get demoralized, I've seen it, and it breaks my heart, like, over the stupidest things,
Well, you and I could tell stories. I mean, that's one of the challenges of this industry, right? Is that we tried that 5 years ago and it didn't work kind of mentality. What I always tell people is that we are ultimately a business and the customer will tell us. So, the people that don't believe in creating magical moments will eventually lose their jobs because our customers, our members, our customers, they want these experiences. And this is what's happening, right? When the 40-year-old becomes the board president or the 45-year-old, and he's been in a club that is doing exciting things, and he goes to the GM and says, why are we not doing exciting things? That day will come. It might not come yet, but that day will come when the consumer will say, why is our club not doing these things when everyone else seems to be doing them? And so it's a slow 100%. Boat in the club business. It's a slow freighter that kind of moves things, but I do believe that eventually it all comes to fruition. And clubs like Champions Run are a great example. Like you said, you love it when you see other clubs try things that you guys have done, and then it's a success. And then they get confident about doing 3 or 4 more other things. And I would say also, you don't have to do 9 things a week. No. You can do once a week.
Focus on one thing you're good at. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And take ideas, whether it's our ideas or somebody else's, and make it your own, right? And that's where it's so gratifying to see clubs who do that and then see like the huge successes that they have doing it. So I think the biggest piece of advice though is just like, and this is why I see so much in the club industry, is like all these club managers focus on like the 1%, the people who just like are the negative naysayers. No. It's like, yeah, but the 99% love this stuff. So why are you even giving the 1% the time of day?
So true.
I don't care if they're your club president. Like focus on the 99%. And I just see it all the time, whether it's just club managers telling stories. They're always talking about the 1% people. I'm like, why are you even giving them your energy? Like screw them. And that's, and that goes with staff too. Like if there's going to be staff who just say, this is stupid, this is dumb, like don't give them your time and your energy, whether it's staff or members. It's like, focus on, the positivity and, feed the positive dog,
Well, I like what you said, Ben, about the fact that you've got to be passionate about what you do, and you got to put yourself on the line. And if you believe in it, there's going to be a club that is going to value what you offer, whether you're a server, whether you're a maintenance worker, whether you're a general manager, or whether you're a communications and marketing manager. There will be a club that wants your passion and wants your ideas. Yeah. So I love that. Ben, how can our Gig Nation kind of learn more from you, learn more about maybe bringing you to their club and talking about how to create kind of exciting videos and storytelling and all the different things you talk about, memorable moments? Give our Gig Nation a little bit of info about how to reach out to you, and tell us.
Yeah,
is the Creative Summit, is that sold out?
Yeah,
is that set?
It's almost sold out. There's a couple more spots left. You can find more information on championscreativesummit.com. My website's benlorenzen.com. I'm super big on LinkedIn, and I'm an open book. So if you ever have questions on anything, I will be 100% transparent. There is nothing I won't hide. So, check it out, and, hopefully we get some people up to Omaha, because it's something really special to see. People see it on video and they see it in camera and everything, but actually experiencing it. And you'll hear that from the people who come to the summit. They're like, I just can't believe how engaged people are, your members and your staff, and how symbiotic they are together. They're dancing together, and it's just it's this culture we created because of content creation, which is just mind blowing.
I got to ask you this question, man. I got to ask you, what do you see yourself doing 10 years from now?
Oh man, I have no idea. I love what I do. I really do. I love getting the club industry is so unique, because you get to see these kids, and you get to be part of their lives. You get to watch them in their historic moments, whether they win state championships or national championships. You get to see them grow up, get engaged, get married at your clubs. And so you get to go on this journey, which is so unique, where it's so much different than hotels. It's the sense that it's really community, and you feel like a big family. I don't know what I'll be doing in 10 years. Like, people always ask me that. I'm like, I don't know if I'll even be in the club industry. Maybe I'll just, go do something else. So, I'm just a believer in like positive energy and just trying to, do big things in this world and do things that impact people. So that's also what I love about the club industry is we have that ability to impact people through magical moments and exceptional service. So I don't know though. People always ask me that. I'm like, maybe I'll be a musician. I don't know.
A musician. There we go. I love it. That's for another
I'm not a
podcast.
musician. I'd have to figure it out, but
Maybe you'd be a movie producer.
There we go. Well,
Ben, that was fantastic, man. Listen, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Gig Nation, that was a very educational and entertaining crash course on the importance of communication, the importance of storytelling. Fantastic, Ben. Loved it. Awesome. Reach out to Ben on LinkedIn. Find his website. Sign up for his Creative Summit. Bring him to your chapter to speak. And Ben, we'll have you on again another time. And I really appreciate your time today. So thank you so very much. Gig Nation, we will see you again on the inside at Golf Industry Guru.
Thanks for listening to the Gig Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and mostly that you learned a few things that will help you improve your business. Join us next time as we continue to bring you the best and brightest golf and hospitality leaders on the planet. Thanks for listening.